All students deserve great teachers, yet we don't have enough great teachers to meet the needs of every student with a disability. In fact, for 20 consecutive years, 9 states, including Florida, reported a special education teacher shortage. While much concern has been paid to the number of individuals becoming teachers, it is also critical to pay attention to the quality of teachers entering classrooms, since better prepared teachers can feel more comfortable and help make a positive impact on their students. Doctors Jenny Root and Addie McConomy of Florida State University have partnered together to explore methods that would benefit both teachers and special education students. They have identified emerging technologies that could potentially help the nation's teacher shortage problem and provide meaningful tools tailored to the needs of each special education student.
So I am in my 9th year here at FSU, and I've been involved in special education since I started babysitting a young man with autism when I was in middle school, and have loved it ever since. I think probably the most pressing and visible issue that we're facing in special education is the workforce shortage. So it's not necessarily that we don't have enough trained teachers, but that we don't have enough people who are willing to work and want to work in public schools in the current working conditions. So one of the things that my research is looking at is how do we increase the resources that teachers have? How can we use things like technology to do what maybe teachers could do but don't have time to do, so that we can both increase the efficiency of their work and lower their demands, but how can we also have more equitable learning opportunities? One of the really interesting things that I found in my research is that teachers often don't feel comfortable with the math content, particularly once you get into middle and high school. And so that often influences our pre-service teachers what they even want to teach. So they'll say, I want to teach elementary school, or I definitely don't want to work with adults. But often it's because of how uncomfortable they are with the content. Another thing that we found is that teachers often set the priorities for their students based on what they were taught or what they assume that they need. So something I often think about is, what do our students now need when they are adults in 2032? And are we preparing them with those skills, or are we still focused on what things were like in 1992? One of the common findings in our research studies is that students with intellectual disability and autism can learn to solve word problems. They can learn to do it independently. We have 20, 30 experimental studies showing middle school students solving ratio and proportion problems. And so it's been really exciting to talk to the teachers and ask them, how has this impacted your perception of your students? One of the teachers shared something really interesting with us. After having taught our curriculum, she said, for the first time, I'm writing IEP goals for this student focused on ratios and proportions. So I said, why now? What has changed? And she said, I don't write goals for things I don't know how to teach. And I had this whole moment of what teachers are teaching their students and what our students are learning really is driven not by what we're assuming about the students, but our own knowledge and skills. And so the teachers don't have tools in their toolbox for how to teach word problem solving to these students. So if we have these poor math outcomes, to me, we don't look at the teachers and say, why aren't you doing a better job? The focus needs to be on us as researchers and teacher educators of what are we doing to make sure that every teacher is prepared to use evidence-based practices in order to support their students. So I think one of the really exciting things about special education and research right now is the emerging technology, particularly what artificial intelligence can do for us and can do for students. One of the exciting things that we are learning is to help differentiate instruction and generate content. So for example, my research on word problem solving has shown that the actual content of the word problems, how they're structured, the quantities, what the problem's even about, influences student success. So one of the ways that we can support students is by adjusting the word problem structure. Another thing we can do to increase the challenge of the task is to increase the complexity of the word problem structure. For a teacher to write those individual word problems is really labor intensive. And so we can do things like use really well-written prompts for artificial intelligence to help generate personally relevant word problems. So if you're really interested in Pokemon, maybe your word problems can be about that, and my word problems are about Taylor Swift, but the teacher isn't having to personalize each one of those. So I think that's just like one small way that emerging technologies can help us to achieve the goal of making sure each student has individualized instruction that's right at their level, but also recognizing the current demands on teachers in the classroom.
The opportunity for myself in a clinical role, where I primarily spend my time working with our pre-service teachers, to collaborate and work closely with research and tenured faculty is really just fundamental to addressing this major concern in special education. The reason our teachers are leaving is because they don't necessarily feel like they have all the resources they need. The research that Jenny Ruth's doing is addressing those needs. She's figuring out how to educate students, and it's part of my role to sort of translate her research for this next generation of teachers. And that means there is not a research to practice gap. We're taking her research and I'm disseminating it directly to our next generation of special education teachers.
I've partnered with some companies to produce curricula based on the research that we've done. And so one of the ways that Dr. McConomy is able to bring research into the classroom and have students practice is by bringing that curriculum in, showing them videos of it in action, and having them critically evaluate it. For example, based on the students in their practicum placement, what modifications might they need to make? How would this work? She has them practice teaching it with each other. And I think that that's really important so that they get practice with research-supported instructional strategies and materials, but they're also doing it in a safe place where they have her feedback and they're doing it with peers before they then go out and do it in the classroom with real students.
We established a new mentoring initiative this year, and it's been really exciting and successful. It's the F.E.A.T.H.E.R Mentoring Initiative. F.E.A.T.H.E.R stands for Fostering Excellence Through Advice, Training, and Help with Experienced Role Models. And it's given us the opportunity to partner our pre-service teachers with a small group of experienced special education teachers here in Leon County that we have a close collaborative relationship with. Utilizing the relationships that we foster through our own teachers here that we've prepared has also given us a really wonderful opportunity to partner with them when they are practicing teachers in the field. For example, one of our graduates, Amy Boer, is currently serving as a F.E.A.T.H.E.R mentor teacher. She supports our pre-service teachers just like she was supported when she was a student here.
So the most rewarding part for teaching is the little victories and when the kids are proud of themselves for the progress they've made, whether it's they're able to say a word that they weren't able to before, or they're solving a math problem on their own. Whenever the kids are driving their education also, and it's not just the adults doing it for them, that's incredibly rewarding. This is my 4th year in the mentor teacher role. I've really been impressed with the caliber of students that I've had from FSU. They've been able to jump right in, and I know a lot of that has to do with just the prep that they've had before they've come here. I think the F.E.A.T.H.E.R mentorship program is important because having quality placements is make or break in like a student teaching career, and there's only so much time you get before you're in the classroom on your own. I think having the chance to rotate through some of the F.E.A.T.H.E.R mentors that we do have, you get to see a variety of classroom settings and teaching styles, but also all the mentor teachers are incredibly good teachers. It's exciting to see some of the information that my students that are placed with me are taking from their past placements and bringing them here, and just getting the student teachers confident in their skills and give them pointers in just a constructive manner.
It's a really neat partnership to sort of have a really intentional flow of knowledge. Dr. Root is producing the research and learning the new best ways to educate our students. I'm taking that research and disseminating it with our pre-service teachers. And then they are putting it into practice in Amy Boer's classroom, where they have the opportunity to try out the things they're learning in our classroom. And all of our mentor teachers enjoy the opportunity to work closely with the next generation of special ed teachers.
I love getting to have the FSU students. The kids love them coming and are pestering me at the beginning of each semester when we're gonna get our FSU students, and I have to tell them, like, you gotta wait, they gotta get their placements first. So it's always fun to have them come and get to share our classroom with them.
Research in special education is critical so that we understand the best ways to educate our most vulnerable students. We don't have the luxury of time when we're working with students in a K-12 setting, and we want to make sure that we're really maximizing every opportunity we have to provide direct instruction to students. And that means making sure that we're using evidence and research-based instructional practices. So the research has to move forward so that we can continue to learn what teachers can do best to help their students learn best.
Right now, the school experiences of students with intellectual disability and autism are not preparing them for enviable adult lives. The preparation that they're getting is not for 2032. It's not thinking about going into inclusive post-secondary ed programs, which are at most universities and state colleges. It's not thinking about independent living or employability skills and what we might need. And so by students with disabilities not receiving high-quality math instruction that's focused on problem solving and reasoning, when they're held back by counting coins and telling time on an analog clock, neither of which I've done very recently, then we're really doing them a disservice, and ultimately they're becoming victims of our own low expectations.
As I think about the future trajectory and the future careers of our current pre-service teachers, my goal for them, of course, is still to be excellent practicing educators, and I'm optimistic that they will still be actively engaged in using new research and new advancements in the field of special education.
In 10 to 20 years, I would really like for us to talk about the science of math the way that we talk about the science of reading. We know how to teach reading to students with and without disabilities. I would love for the science of math to be in the same place. So for when districts review curriculum, that parents are saying, is this aligned with the science of math? Just like they're doing with the science of reading. We're not quite there yet. We don't have a lot of research in inclusive settings, and we don't have a lot of research where the teachers are actually the implementers. So it's great to know that myself and my doctoral students can go into a classroom and pull a small group, or we can go coach a teacher to use these strategies, and the students do learn. So the limit isn't what students with disabilities are able to learn to do. The limit is on, do we know how to teach it? And then even a step back, do we as researchers or teacher educators know how to teach our teachers to use those strategies?